Hello everybody, I'll start. My name's Richard Kennett and I teach in the UK in a school called Redland Green School in Bristol. And I write history textbooks and I help train teachers in the UK. And I'm going to talk to you for the next 50 minutes about something that I'm very passionate about, which is using artefacts in my classroom. Why artefacts are powerful in the history classroom. And what I mean by an artefact is an object made by a human being, typically one of cultural or historical interest. And I mean, here's some examples. If you click through AL, they'll bring them up. So it could be posters, or it could be a decorative object like this, or it could be a helmet, or it could be a statue. And for the purposes of this workshop, I'm only going to use visual artifacts, but obviously they could be written as well. And I use either objects or mostly photos of objects a lot in my teaching, and I'm going to go through 3 examples with you in the next 50 minutes. And I want this to be a lot of discussion and a lot of you, not just me. It's been a very long weekend and it's been very hot. Okay, let's start with one object. Oh, sorry, before I begin, sorry, I forgot. This is inspired by this book. And this book was written by the director of the British Museum in London. And it's my favourite history book because in this book he describes the history of the world in 100 objects, and it's a brilliant book. I don't know if it's in Korean though, but it's been translated into a lot of languages. So let's start with an object. And again, please, Eyal. So we're going to talk about how you can use a single object. Now this object is from ancient Greece, and all I want you to do next minute or so, talk with the people you're sat with. What do you think it might be? It's about this big. Does anybody know anybody want to guess? A computer. It is. Do you know what it can calculate? It is about astronomy. Does anybody want to further guess? Okay, let me help you. So this is a series of copper dials and wheels, and it calculates solar eclipse. Now to calculate the lunar eclipse, the moon eclipse, is actually quite easy maths. To calculate the solar eclipse is very complicated. So, discussion. In groups, the ancient Greeks made a computer out of metal that could calculate the solar eclipse. What does that tell us about the ancient Greeks? What can we say about the ancient Greeks from this single object? Please see if you can come up with a list of 3 or 4 things. What does it tell us about the ancient Greeks? So we have agriculture, maths, trade. Anybody else? So from one object we've made inferences, and we've said that the Greeks were good at agriculture, they had trade, they had maths skills. You can see that they had metal skills. You can see that they had supernatural beliefs about the power of the sun, because it was so important for them to work out when the solar eclipse was. So one object, lots of historical thinking, which is brilliant. Let's try something similar, but with more objects. And I often do this when I introduce a topic to my students. So I often kind of give a collection of artifacts to introduce a topic. So when students know nothing about a topic, I give them a collection of artifacts and let them see if they can work it out themselves. And I've purposely picked a topic that I'm guessing that you probably don't know a lot about, which is the Anglo-Saxon period in England. I'm guessing there's no one who's an Anglo-Saxon expert, probably. So we're going to look at what archaeological finds can tell us about the Anglo-Saxons. And all of these objects were found under this hill in East England. And they're one of the greatest treasures of England. If we had national treasures of England like you do in Korea, this would be number 1. And it's called this place is called Sutton Hoo, which is a very weird name. And so could we all get the big sheets? It's this one. Can I take this for a second? So there are 7 objects here. 7 objects from the Sutton Hoo discovery. what I want you to do, and I want you to work in groups, I want you to annotate it, please. What do these objects tell us about the Anglo-Saxons? You're going to tell me what you can find out about the Anglo-Saxons from these 7 objects. Please write down on a piece of paper. I'm going to give you 5-6 minutes. I want you to spend some time talking and thinking and writing this down, please. Okay, it was a really good question from this group here. And they said, why is it a ship burial? And the really simple answer is no one really knows why. But all of these objects were found in a very long wooden boat that was buried under the ground. And most archaeologists think that it was part of their death ritual that they'd put all these things in a boat so that it could take them to the afterlife. And most English archaeologists agree that there's probably a lot more of these buried under the ground that we've not found. So lots of people go around East England with metal detectors trying to find and hoping they might find this again. So can we sum up? Could each group tell me 2 things that they found out about the Anglo-Saxons from these objects, please? Brilliant, okay. Okay, so we've got war, luxury. So they had currency, okay, really good. As a group, we've now discovered then that the Anglo-Saxons had frequent wars. We've discovered that they had luxury goods because they were sophisticated. They had very good metal handling skills. They had trade and craft. We've also discovered that in terms of their society, that they had a strict hierarchy and that there was a lot of power and authority. And in terms of their beliefs, that they clearly had a belief about the afterlife. Those are all accurate inferences about Anglo-Saxon period. So you're now Anglo-Saxon experts, well done. But for me, this is a really good way to get my students thinking about history. I want them to think about it, and I don't always want it just to be me telling them. We're now going to use an example that's going to look at contrasting perspectives. On your tables, I've put a pack of these artefacts, but you have Korean translation as well. There are 12 objects, 12 pictures, and they are all about the Nazi occupation of Europe. So 6 of the objects are about the occupation of Poland in the east, and 6 of the objects are about the occupation of the Netherlands, which is where Bjorn is from. The Nazi occupation of these 2 countries was very different, but there was also some similarities. So I want you to talk through these objects, and there are 12 objects, and I want you to discuss each artifact. So talk through the artifact and what we can say about it historically. And I want you to group the objects into, I'll give you a set in a minute, Jacek. I want you to sort the objects into similar experiences and different experiences. And then you're going to tell me about Nazi occupation. And so what you'll end up with on your table, I hope, is different groups with the objects representing different themes or different categories. And I want you to really think about it, and I want you to think about what is it that they're similar, but also maybe what is really different about the occupation of these 2 countries. Jacek just noticed, and I've not noticed this before, that with the 2 identification cards, the Polish identification card is in German, the Dutch identification card is in Dutch. Let's go to each group, and then each group tell me something that they've been talking about, something they've found out from each of those objects, please. So I hope that what you've kind of got to have an experience of is kind of how I use artifacts in the classroom. And these kind of activities I do with my students all the time. And for me, these are the 5 reasons why artifacts are so powerful. I love that they're a direct connection to the past. I think sometimes for students, they think that the past is alien or a foreign country, and using these artifacts, they can see that actually this is real, this happened to the place where they live. I think they can tell a really rich and really detailed story of the past. We've used very few objects today, and we've talked a lot. If you choose them really carefully, I think they can brilliantly show multiple perspectives as well. They really emphasise the importance of the museum sector, which in Britain is very underfunded, so I kind of think it's a good thing that we're kind of emphasising why that museums are great. I love museums. And then lastly, I think they really, really require students to make inferences and use lots of historical thinking. You have to fill the gaps You have to think, you have to make guesses, and that's what I want my students to be thinking on that higher level. And that was very quick, but I hope that was useful, and thank you very much. Thanks.